All right, all right. Welcome to Tower Garden Live. I'm Doug, and I'm here. I have some really special guests today. I have Kindle with me, and here on Tower Garden Live, you know what we're all about. We're all about growing the healthiest food you could ever imagine, and growing it in a super easy way that's super accessible for so many people. But today is a really special day because you guys have probably heard me talk about Joynny Seeds quite a bit. I'm definitely a fanboy. I would have wore some Joynny Seed gear today, but I wear it every day, so it was already in the washing machine, so it wasn't out available. But we have Wes from Joynny Seed here, and he's going to be dropping some wisdom on us. It's going to be amazing. And Kendall has a special relationship to him, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Kendall. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. So I have known Wesley my whole entire life because he is my big brother. And Wesley has been a part of the Joynny Seed Company. They're located up in Maine. And he is the territory sales rep for the Southeast Territory. And he's currently in Georgia right now. He's just all over the place with all different farms. And so I want to pass it over to Wesley. And could you start us out by telling us what you do as a sales rep and what does that look like and where have you been?
Sure. Um, yeah, so hi, Wesley Palmer with Joynny Seeds. Yeah, as Kendall said, I'm the sales rep for the Southeast, so that encompasses North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and the U.S. island territories. And essentially my job at Johnny's is I travel around and visit our customers. I visit trial partners. We work with universities and commercial farmers all across the country and the world, really, to place trials. At Joynny Seeds, we have a big research farm up in Maine, and it's split up into basically like two factors. We have a breeding department, so we are breeding solanaceous crops like tomatoes and peppers. And we also have cucurbit breeding, where we're doing pumpkins, winter squash, summer squash, kabocha squash, stuff like that. And then we also are getting into flower breeding now. The other side of the farm is trials. So we trial all of our seeds before we put them into our catalog, as well as other breeding companies' seeds. And all of that goes into, oh goodness, I've dropped my phone.
That's all good.
It was bound to happen, so it's better that we just got that out of the way. All of those go into our catalog. So this is sort of what Joynny Seed started on. We've been a company for 50 years. And essentially, the selected part of Johnny Selected Seeds is us hunting for the best varietals to present to you. And all of that is factored in with flavor, performance, days to maturity. So yeah, we have a 40-acre research farm up in Maine and probably 10 satellite fields where we do isolations. So there we'll have one type of peppers, one type of tomatoes, one type of squash, so that way they're not cross-pollinating. And we have 10 or so fields all across the little town that we're in up there. So it's a really fun and unique company. We're employee owned as well, which is kind of unique in the seed world. And yeah, I've been with him I'm in my 7th year now at Joynny Seeds. And yeah, basically just travel around the Southeast in the wintertime, and in the summertime, I'm up in Maine. My wife's family has a small farm up there, maybe 5 minutes from the research farm, and we grow vegetables and flowers, and try to grow as much of our catalog out as I can, just so I'm intimately familiar with the crops when I'm selling them.
If you guys ever get the chance to go on Wesley's Instagram page, and I personally have seen it, his farm, his own personal farm, puts my little dirt pit to shame. Like, he has like so many rows of varieties of different types of fruits and vegetables. And then the actual facility is at Johnny's actual facility is spectacular. Like, imagine just a whole territory dedicated to sunflower seeds, like sunflowers growing massively, and like every type of flower you can imagine. It's really a gardener's dream come true.
We grow out our entire catalog. So every variety that goes in here, all of our breeding stuff. So, when you're walking a trial every like 15 feet, it's a new variety. So it's pretty incredible.
Well, I wanted to say about that catalog. That catalog is a very important part of what I do as a home tower gardener. It's like back in the day, and I mean, you kids out there, you don't know what this is like, but back in the day before the internet, we used to get like the J.C. Penney catalog, and I'd be like circling what I want for Christmas in it and dreaming. Well, now I have the Joynny Seed catalog, and it's just amazing because like if you go to like the tomato page, it'll just have it's such a beautiful catalog because it has just pictures of each variety across the top, and then it gives you details about each one. And if you go to the Johnny's website, Joynny Seed, JoynnySeeds.com, you can subscribe to that catalog. And I'll tell you what, I really am this big of a fanboy. It's not just because Wes is on here. I was a fanboy before. I had no idea Kendall was related to somebody at Johnny's, but it is a phenomenal catalog. And one thing you said though, and I think that's just amazing that you guys are really trying out and like making sure like it's not just like pretty stories you're writing in there. Like you guys write it as if you've really like chosen this seed because it's awesome. And you said something about breeding. What does that mean when you say you're breeding seeds or plants, or what are you doing?
Sure. Yeah, and I'm glad that you are familiar with the catalog, Doug, and a fan of it as well, because it really is a huge resource for a lot of growers and has been for the past 50 years. We spend a ton of time and a ton of energy going into great detail about how to grow every crop out. We have a full growers library on our website where we go into great detail about the temperature you need to germinate stuff at, the temperature it needs to grow at, all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, it's an awesome resource that people have been using, like you said, since before the internet to learn how to grow crops. But yeah, so for plant breeding, essentially, what we're doing there is we're creating new varieties. And I know y'all wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the different types of plant breeding that goes on. So if this is a good time, we can get into that. But yeah, basically, in plant breeding, you have two different styles of plant breeding. You have open pollinated, which is sort of the old school type of style of breeding, and then you have hybrid plants. So the difference here is open pollinated is going to be a wide population of plants. So you've got a whole bunch of different plants in a population that you're planting out into an open field, and they are crossing with that entire population, either by wind or insect, whatever that specific crop needs to cross. Some have different, some have pollinators, some just cross naturally through the wind. But essentially, all of those are being grown out in a large population. So you have many different kind of genetics and parent lines that are going into it. In hybrid plant breeding, you have one specific mother and one specific father that's an established parent line. And those two are being crossed to create an F1 or a phenotype that is, very specific to that mother and father. And what you get with hybrids is generally you get more vigor in the plant. They're generally more uniform. And it's just going to be a more reliable variety if you've got hybrid. Now, if you were to save seed from a hybrid, it's not going to be true to form in that next generation, in that F2. Essentially, what will happen is it'll express one of the parent lines more than the other. Whereas in open pollinated crops, you've got a whole wide range of genetics that are coming together to make this variety. And so if you were to save seed from an open pollinated crop, it's going to give you a viable offspring. So that's really the main difference there. There's a lot of confusion around hybrids. Sometimes they get called GMO. They're not GMO at all. Hybrids can be organic. Hybrids can be, they're not genetically modified. And so if we want to get, Johnny's doesn't carry anything that's genetically modified. And genetically modified crops are essentially where you are taking and you are implanting the DNA of one particular crop or variety or something into another. And so it's different than hybrid plants, but sometimes there's some confusion around that. Same with heirloom. There's can be a lot of confusion around heirlooms.
So when it comes, just to clarify, because I know a lot of the people in our community do care a lot about GMOs and things like that. GMOs is where they're actually modifying the genes, or they're taking.
Correct.
I mean, are they using CRISPR to do that when they do it, or is that they're using CRISPR.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
So you can take stuff like colors from a flower and put that into a tomato.
Right.
And so then you're achieving this sort of like unachievable change in the plant unless you are, changing the genes is essentially what you're doing with GMO.
But when you talk about breeding, these are things that pretty much could happen naturally in nature, because you might have, so just to get a little more technical, but not freak anybody out. Let's say we want to combine one strain of basil with another. Are you just taking like the flowers? Is it like as if a bee landed on one and then landed on not the same strain but a different strain, and now it becomes like a combo strain? Is that basically how it works?
Pretty much, yeah. For say like a hybrid tomato, we're physically removing the anthers, the male parts of one flower, and touching those to the female parts of another flower. So we're ensuring that this exact variety is crossing with this exact variety. Once that's happened, then that flower would be covered up to ensure that no other pollen from another variety could come into that female part of the flower. And tomatoes are actually, that's not a great example because tomatoes are a perfect flower, so they have male and female parts. But
wow.
But yeah, so it's essentially you're taking and you are physically, adding pollen from one plant to another to make a hybrid. And then heirloom crops, that's another one that you had mentioned, Kendall, that heirlooms are generally open pollinated, not generally, but they are open pollinated. And they're a variety that's been around for 50 years plus is essentially the kind of loose term for heirlooms. But heirlooms, you can save the seed from that. It's an open pollinated crop, but it's also been around for, decades is essentially what makes an heirloom an heirloom.
And somebody just asked in the chat, they were asking if a hybrid is like a GMO.
No, not at all. That's kind of what we went over just a sec ago, but hybrids are not genetically modified. Hybrids are just essentially, you're being very specific in your plant breeding. You're taking the pollen from one to a flower of another. You're not at all getting in there and changing the genetics of it, other than it is changing the genetics of it, but naturally, just as you would,
right, because that could happen with a bee. A bee could do the same thing. It could pick up and go to the next one. So good. That was a great one. Wow. So let's talk about, so you said heirloom is 50 or more years. It's a very established breed. But what are some advantages? So when we have these different types of, then there's organic. I noticed on the website, some seeds say they're organic and some don't say they're organic. Can you explain that to us?
Absolutely. So organic seed essentially just refers to seed that's been produced in a fully organic growing system. So that means it's void of synthetic fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides. That's essentially what organic is a growing system that doesn't have synthetic, inputs into it. And so there's very specific rules around organics. That's, USDA, and then you have state inspectors. And so a hybrid seed can be organic, and so can an open pollinated seed. The main difference there is that it's just been grown without any synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or inputs like that.
Okay. So we have our different types of seeds. So, what do you recommend? Like I see some tower gardens behind you there with some good looking lettuce and stuff. So, how do we choose? What is the process? And so, if I was going to want to grow, let's just say some lettuce, for example, what do I consider in that thought process?
Sure. So in regards to tower gardens, I think that's probably best for us to stick to, tower gardens right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, in regards to tower gardens, and there are some behind me here. I can show these. These are my mom, Lily Palmer's tower gardens here. You can see we have, these tower gardens are really well suited for leafy crops. So here we have a head lettuce that does really well here. This is chard, so it's our rainbow chard. This is a Johnny's original. Bright Lights is the name of that, and it's up top here. We have some herbs growing. These are different chives. This is parsley. There's some basil up here. Over here we have some Asian greens. This is stuff like mizuna right there. This is a mustard green. These are also frilly type of mustards. Some herbs down here. So, these tower gardens absolutely can support fruiting crops like tomatoes and zucchini, stuff like that. But they really shine in leafy green production. That's really what I think that they're best suited for. The sort of quick turn crops like lettuces, Asian greens, stuff like that.
I have a question because I know I grew this at one point and I need to keep track of this for future gardening, but there is a crispy type of leafy green that I grew, and it was like the most crunchy lettuce I've ever had. And you started a seedling, and then I was given a variety, but it was like a certain type of cabbage or something, but it was a lettucey. I don't know if you can remember that, but it was like the best lettuce. And I've had other people ask me, like, go ahead.
Super light blonde in color.
It's a more light,
Yeah,
it's not dark rich green.
I think you're talking about Tokyo Bacana, which is an Asian green. It's a Chinese cabbage. I think it's probably the fastest growing thing in our entire catalog. It's very well suited for a tower garden. Really, all the Asian greens are going to do really well. Stuff like Tokyo Bacana, Kametsuna, Pak choys, bok choys, mustards. All of those are they're brassicas. That's the plant family that they belong to. Whereas like lettuce is in a different plant family. Brassicas have a wider range of temperatures that they tolerate than lettuces do. So it's be a good option for like a summer tower garden to go with Asian greens. But yeah, really, most all lettuces are going to do well. I have my personal favorite lettuces. I would say if you are looking to have a nice variety of lettuce, the Salanova lettuces that we carry are a fantastic option. I've got them here in the catalog. These are a Johnny's exclusive for North America. We don't breed these, but they're an exclusive that we sell. We're the only providers of that in North America. And they just make a really fantastic lettuce head. They come in every shape and color combination. We have red and green oak leaf, red and green butters, red and green incised. So you can really grow a wide range of lettuces with all sticking to one type. They have comparable days to maturity. And another cool thing about the Salanovas is that they produce really dense heads of sort of like uniform baby leaf lettuces. So with some lettuce types, you'll get like really large outer leaves like this. The Salanovas stay pretty uniform and tight. Like this right here is the Salanova green butter. And so while these are like larger outer leaves, eventually what you will end up with is sort of a tighter group of sort of teen to baby leaf size. So they're a really great option there.
I'm having the same exact experience, and I am growing quite a few of the Salanovas, And so
cool.
I'm going to give another plug for the Joynny Seed website because this is my first time meeting Wes. Of course, now I'm going to be texting him every day, but no, I'm just kidding. But I go to the Joynny Seed website, and then they have this they have questions on the side. You can just keep filtering. So I'll go with hydroponic performer. I'll go with heat tolerant because I'm in Florida. I'll go with these different questions that they kind of ask you on the website. And I also kind of follow the marketing a little bit because I figure if they're excited, I remember when it seemed like Salanova might only be a few years old, right? With Johnny's.
I think it's almost been around a decade now. It's been
Oh,
around. It's
well,
been out for quite a
it
while.
seemed like the marketing might have pushed maybe a couple of years ago or something. And so I was like, okay, I trust Johnny, so I'm just going to buy it. And it's been out of this world. Between that and some of the romaines, like again, and being in Florida, if I just search heat tolerant, and you don't even have to do it for just lettuce, guys. You can just search heat tolerant and hydroponic performer, because people are always asking me, what should I grow? Should I grow? I usually just search for heat tolerant and hydroponic performer, and then I send them that link and then say, have at it. And it seems to work well for people. So, man, I just love that. Can we talk about that growing setup that you have or your mom has for seedlings over there?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is sort of just like a simple light rack that we've put together. This is actually like a baking rack that we've converted over to sort of like a plant nursery. And I know, Kendall, you wanted to talk about sort of how to get your plants started for a tower garden. And so a simple setup like this is a great and easy thing to do. Really, all you need is these are T5 Barina lights. That is the name of the manufacturer. We bought those off Amazon. They're really affordable. And I've just got them zip tied to the bottom of this baking rack, as you can see here. And so this is kind of acting as our plant nursery here. And essentially, for a tower garden, you're going to want to start your seeds in some sort of a substrate. And so most people are using this rock wool. That's what you can buy through the Living Towers. You can buy that through Kindle and Doug. And, it's a really simple and easy way to get seeds started. Essentially, you have a whole sheet of these. You would drop your seeds into these holes. You'd cover them with some sort of a substrate like vermiculite or perlite that's just going to help hold moisture in until they germinate. All of these can sit in a bottom tray that doesn't have holes in it, so it will retain water. And you essentially just add your water to it. These will wick the water up, keep your seeds nice and moist. And so you can keep them in a nursery of sorts like this until the plants are up and going. And these are a little flopped over. They look a little rough right now because we just went through and thinned them. These are zinnias that we're going to be putting out. All of this is all grown in soil because this is going outside in my mom's garden in a few weeks. But you can do the same thing. You just put your rock wool here into a tray like this. This doesn't have any holes on the bottom. And so it holds the water in there. Once the plants are germinated, and again, on the Johnny's website and underneath all of our varieties, we talk about the proper temperatures, the amount of days that each crop would need to germinate. And once they're germinated, they can sit in a nursery like this for maybe like 2 weeks at the tops. You'd want to, a week probably is good, but you just want to have the lights pretty close to them, because if they don't have light immediately, what happens is the plants stretch, they become etiolated, and they're looking for lights. They become really stretched. They become frail and they grow really long stems. And that's not ideal. You want to keep the lights nice and low when they're in that seedling stage. Adding water to the bottom. And once they've gone through a week with just water, you'd really want to start to give them nutrients after maybe 4 days up to a week. And so, if you're tower gardening, What we do is I just dip into the reservoir here with a cup, and I'll just get a little bit of water out of that reservoir and then just dump it into the bottom of your tray there. And that's enough nutrients to get them up and going. Once you see roots starting to poke out of the bottom of these rock wool, then you can just plug them into the tower garden and they'll take right off.
That is awesome. And I noticed you were talking about vermiculite. And so my question is, I mean, will that, because I haven't been using vermiculite for a long time, but I was wondering if I would get like a higher germination rate with it.
You do. You don't have to have vermiculite. This is just kind of like a general guide. If you've got them in a really moist environment and they're staying wet enough, you don't need that. But what the vermiculite does is it simulates like that seed to soil contact that you want. You just want to keep the seed from drying out in the time it takes for it to germinate. And if you're using pelleted seed, this might be a good time to talk about pelleted seed.
Yeah.
That's essentially just referring to seed that's been covered in a clay coating, and that's for ease of sowing. So that way you can singulate and just put one seed per cell. Lettuce seed is super small, and so without that coating, you can end up with multiple seeds in your cell, and then you have to come through and thin. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to have vermiculite. Some people will germinate right in this with a humidity dome over it. Some people, there's all sorts of different ways to do it, but a real simple way is to just drop your seed in the hole, put some vermiculite in there to cover it, and that just helps retain moisture through that germination process.
I've got a question from somebody asking. So they're asking about the English cucumbers, and she's saying that her kids love the ones at the grocery store, the English cucumbers that are wrapped in plastic, super long ones. Can you recommend a cuke that has a similar low seed level and crispness for the tower garden?
Absolutely. So that English style, if you really want to stick to English, Poniente would be a good option there. My very favorite cucumber is sort of a new one to the market. It's called Unagi, Unagi, and it's a long Asian type crossed with a bait alpha. Bait alpha is another name for burpless, or it's just that thin-skinned one that you see that comes in bags that kids just love. They're very small seed cavity, thin-skinned, kind of delicate type. That's the bait alpha, and that's crossed with a long Asian type. And that's Unagi. Yeah, thanks, Doug, for pulling that up there. This is my very favorite cucumber to eat. It is so tasty. It's got a really small seed cavity. It doesn't get bitter. It's just a really nice cuke. But here's Poniente. That's the long Asian style, or the English style is Poniente, which is a great option too.
How do you spell that?
Poniente.
Yeah, I think I want to grow these too. And I'll tell you what, guys, because we're not going to have access to Wesley, but for about a few more minutes here. But what I find just amazing and has been such a huge part of my journey, you guys go to this website, joynnyseeds.com, because if you're thinking about this cucumber, the Poniente, look at over here on the left side. We have the germination guide. It tells you the optimal temperature ranges. It gives you some information on it. Of course, then you got your growing information. Look at all this. It's amazing. It'll tell you how many days till maturity, how to sow it, how to direct seed it, what type of pests, the diseases you might expect that you would get with it. I mean, it's just incredible. And then it gives you other ideas of things you might like. So, I mean, I can't recommend it enough. Well, I told you guys I was a fanboy of Joynny Seed, but wow. Well, Wesley, I just really appreciate you being on here. I hope someday we can get you back.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been
fun. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface here.
I know. I sort of just started talking and didn't stop. So
it was great.
If there's other questions that you guys want to address, we can always do more.
That would be awesome. Great. I want to point out one little thing just for anyone who's watching and you've been wondering where that grunting noise is coming from. There is, it's Doug. He's been farting this whole, no, just kidding.
My dog, I wondered if I should say anything like, my dog is snoring. He will not stop snoring and he won't go away. He has to be at my feet at all times. So I got to work this out of how I'm going to be able to do podcasts and live streams.
It adds character to the show. It just,
I should get a little seat for him. Maybe if he was with me.
Yeah, there you go.
The
And our
mascot.
tower's running in the back, so if you hear the water flowing, that's what's going on my end.
Right.
All right.
Funny stuff.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thank you everybody for watching us. Make sure you, wherever you're seeing this, to like and follow and all that good stuff. Go check out Joynny Seeds, and yeah, if you missed it, wherever you're seeing this stream right now on Facebook, you're going to be able to, once it's done, you're going to be able to rewind it and watch it from the beginning. Also, please, so follow, like, add, subscribe to our channels, but also forward this to somebody that would appreciate it, or even just tag them if you're on Facebook. So there's lots of ways to share
One
it.
more thing. I'm going to do one more plug. So next Tuesday, I'm going to be kicking off a 9-week grow group. And you guys, this is perfect for anyone who is brand new to gardening. If you're the person who's killed every single plant, you just have fake plants and even those die, like this is a great 9-week growing course where it's going to be you getting plugged in to a community. You're going to learn how to start your tower garden. We're going to cover all the ins and outs, like how to start your seedlings, what to do when you have pests get on your tower garden, how to start your next round so that you can grow your summer garden. And we'll put all these other great links in there that, you know, if you want some of these specific seeds like Wesley was talking about, like you can get all that information in our group. It's just going to be a lot of fun. And I know for me, starting a tower garden was that entry, that gateway drug into loving gardening. Now I've got a dirt garden, and I hope that this can inspire you to like get out there. Don't be so scared of gardening, you know, and it's a very rewarding hobby. Like I loved it. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, it's just amazing that we haven't even gotten into how great it is to eat the stuff you've grown. I mean, you're going to appreciate your food even more once you're growing it. So reach out to us if you would like to be a part of that grow group. We're here to help you, and we're here to help you whether you're growing in the ground or in the air or hydroponic or aeroponic, you name it. We just love plants and we love eating them too. So you guys have a great day. Thanks again. And let's keep it growing.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate all the Johnny's love.
Yes.
Thanks, Kendall.
Love you, Wes. Bye.
Bye, guys.